This thing is so behind. Like, did you see how I hit pause and nothing?
Every time.
Hey, Jim Oswald.
I know.
Yeah, how are you? Yeah, thinking I might be dead. Yeah, no, Sally's here.
You see up there, I just shouted. But I think so.
Okay. Welcome. Hello, everyone online. See a lot of people online. Thank you all again. Cool kids in the back, I see one more time. We have, we are delighted and have great appreciation for Meredith McDonough, who is here from, she is from Brooklyn. She is a independent director and has worked all over the country and has many, many great stories. I'm sure you've heard a lot of them. Before that, she was at Action Theaters in Louisville. And she wants to talk to us, and we're so happy about that. So Meredith, it's all over.
Hi, I also feel the need to be like, I'm from Jersey, I just live in Brooklyn. It's a difference. Thank you for having me. This has been a crazy long day, but I'm like really here for it. I'm gonna talk about this later. It's been great. Truly, I'm just gonna like center myself in this space. It's like, it's been great to be here. I feel like this is a room full of humans that truly are like ready and excited about what's next for this company. And I do have to say, like, thank you for really engaging in this process and really engaging in today. I'll start by talking about who I am and how I show up as an artist and a leader. As an artist, I think the best parts of my mother and my father live on inside of me. My mom was a consummate host. She loved bringing together disparate groups of people that she knew would delight in each other, but also that she knew would challenge each other, forming new conversations and starting new lines of thought. My father was a coach. So he was always encouraging and strategizing from the sidelines. Encouraging. You're welcome. Yeah, he was a team builder. So I would call him, like if I was trying to figure out something with casting, I would call him and he'd be like, it doesn't matter if your quarterback is great. If you don't have any running backs, you're going to get nowhere. And I learned from him that it was never about the star. It was about building teams that would lift each other up. So as an artist, I think I'm a mix of both of them. I am a host and a coach. I am a community builder and a curator, and I am a leader and a motivator. I believe that artistic director is a position of service. And I am here for the conversation, to be present and to be listening, whether that means I'm in the lobbies before or after shows, whether that means I'm in your rehearsal room, whether that means I'm ducking in and out of your office, or I'm at lunch with you and your friends, or at a civic event anywhere in Providence. I really believe that it is my job as an artistic leader to listen so that we are building the future of Trinity together. My vision for Trinity Rep is that it is a vibrant, thriving, ambitious, sustainable arts center with seasons that center our resident company members and our training company, that is beloved by Providence, with a fully funded new works pipeline through a partnership with Brown, which gives our audience access to our work as it is being made, and our students access to professional opportunity and process, ensuring curiosity and excitement in everything that we do. The foundation for that vision is, of course, our work on the stage. So I curate seasons to challenge and delight, to foster a sense of curiosity, that are as diverse as America is, so that everyone has the opportunity to see themselves on stage, and to grow our capacity for empathy. I think in this siloed, AI-driven world that we are currently living in, the opportunity to come together in space with strangers to witness live human experience is more crucial than ever. I curate seasons where classics are in conversation with musicals, which are in conversation with world premieres, which are in conversation with new classics, as we build the canon together moving forward. I think all the plays should answer why this play, why now, to ensure that our work feels vital. Whether it is a classic that is seen through a totally different contemporary lens, or it is a play that is written 30 minutes ago. Ultimately, we are having conversations with our audience rather than treating them as consumers. And so the way that I think about this is like, you could say you want to do Pride and Prejudice because you think it's incredibly important that we center women's voices right now, versus saying you want to do it because you heard it did well at other theaters. So the way that I build this is through passion projects. I curate seasons sort of centered around passion projects. The first people I would go to is your resident company. I'm just staring at all of you, so I'm like, here we are. The first people I would go to is the resident company to say to them individually, what is it that you are burning to do? Is there a role you're trying to play? Is there people you want to work with? Are there a director you want to work with? So that we start to build seasons around these projects. The next people I go to are directors that I love. Same thing. I feel like as directors, what happens to us is we get siloed pretty quickly of saying like, oh, that's a person who does new musicals, that's a person who does comedy. But we all have the thing that we are burning to do. When we were in Louisville, I called Robert O'Hara, who's a director that I love and respect. And I just said, what are you dying to do? And he was like, honestly, I'm not going out of town anymore to do August Wilson. I am dying to do Tennessee Williams. And so when we put that work on our stage, now you have years of thought and musing on that, and the audiences feel that. And then the third group that I go to is staff and board and alumni to say, like, what are your ideas? We are all curators, and much like I feel in my rehearsal rooms, like, you never know where the best idea is going to come from. And so I want to make sure as you walk into space that we are holding those ideas so that we are building the future of seasons together. So of course, like, there's no way to do all of that in one season, right? It's like, even you guys would be like, nope, that's the whole season. So I really do believe, and I'm sort of thankful for this exercise, in multi-season programming as a way to think about projects and where we're looking at the things that are coming up for us. Well, please. Multi-season programming helps with budgeting because it allows us to bring in key artists to the budgeting conversations, so that we're actually saying, why do you want to do with that show? Rather than what we thought you would want to do with that show. It allows for production, for changeover, for timing, for where things fall in the season, especially with that new theater being flexible, of like being able for production to be able to think strategically about how things are going to line up for them. It fundamentally helps with time. Great work takes time. And so being able to develop your work over years rather than over like 4 weeks of rehearsal is great. And for me, it helps with audience development. And so here I'm going to introduce something that I call open process, which is a pipeline of development through readings and workshops of not only new plays, but also these passion projects, giving audience access to process. So that we're saying, okay, great, as you've heard this, like if Becky says, I'm dying to do Hedda Gabler, that we say, I say, great, if we're gonna put that 2 years from now, then what we're gonna say is, for the next 2 years, we're gonna look at readings and workshops, we're gonna invite our audience into that, deepening their relationship, but also beginning to build momentum and word of mouth around the work. Because we're saying, like, come and see. We're so used to, well, I don't know that you are, in many theaters that I run, we're used to doing this with world premieres, of trying to make sure we give them enough workshop time and space, but I don't think we give this space to the actual work we put on our stages, and I think there's a great opportunity for it. I think with a greater investment, they have a deeper appreciation of the work we do. It builds momentum and excitement and word of mouth about what's next, and it builds loyalty. When I was at TheaterWorks in Palo Alto, we did the premiere of Memphis, the musical, and there was an audience there that had seen it from its very first reading through like formal workshops, through a workshop production, through the world premiere. And there were 75 of them who got on a plane to be their opening night on Broadway because they felt like they owned that show. And they were so loyal to TheaterWorks' new works because they had been invited to be there, like watching the bread be made at each step. For both classics and new plays, it helps the product, like at the baseline of that. And I think that the partnership with Brown has real potential in this. Like as we're opening up and talking about what this could be, that this pipeline for new plays that's featuring both our company members and the resident training company, as well as giving their MFA writers, actual professional actors who can help them work on their plays together. So that way they are growing as writers and growing alongside professional writers. And in the same way that their students, their actors are growing alongside. It's a symbiotic relationship, like a real pipeline to get new work to the main stage so that the work is more dynamic and it has a built-in audience over multi-season. I'm thinking a lot about the glass walls. Talk a lot about the glass walls of your new building today. And I think that is what open process is. It's an invitation. It is a transparent offering of how our work is made. It is a welcoming to our audience on the most nascent of levels. So, speaking of multi-season programming, I have some seasons for you. I have a system that is deeply analog. But what it does, it allows me, I'm a visual thinker. So what it does is it allows me to see how things are in conversation with each other. And it also is as flexible as a piece of tape. So when I show you something that you go, oh, okay, the budget shifted, we had to move that, great, you move that and put that in. It's a series of cards, don't worry, you're gonna see it. Then I'll just give you the hint. Yellow is classics, pink is new work, green is musicals, blue is some off subscription ideas. There's a lot of internal codes that are like passion projects, multi-generational programming, world premieres. You're not, unless you're these people, probably going to be able to read it all. That's okay. It is here for you. So you can come and take pictures, you can do whatever you want at the end, right? But all right, here. I'm gonna show most of it. Oh no, the most important thing is they're interactive, right? Is to just think of it as like we are building these seasons together. This is one set of ideas. And to be clear, I imagined for this that both theaters were back open and running. Just because you got to imagine some framework. Both theaters are back up and running, and I don't understand yet how you think about slots or have thought about slots. So they are not, other than saying this might open the season in any particular order. But I can say like upstairs theater, downstairs theater. Okay, good. There we go. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Okay. I think of this as moving forward, reflecting back. The first season is about getting to know me. It's an urgent call to return to vital art making and craft, featuring the best of what our artists do. It is trust building as we center excellence. So, okay. We're gonna open the season. I got on the phone with Tiffany Nicole Green, an alum pal, and said, "Hey, what are some musicals you're passionate about today?" And she was like, Pippin. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I love Pippin because Pippin is a celebration of theater. It is like a man's journey to find himself in the most theatrical of ways. It's great roles for resident company. It's wildly imaginative and theatrical for design. So opening the season with that, an alumni and a passion project. Next, this production of Emma by Kate Hamill that I have been directing. It is a comedy. It is female, it is like a female-centered comedy with tons of contemporary music and dance. It has a million different entry points from Austinites to people that have never heard of Jane Austen. It is a real, like, it's like a joy bubble. It's great roles for resident company members. It's a bold design, and it is multi-generational. Throughout, you're gonna see pieces of multi-generational programming. I think about the work that you've done with Project Discovery, and then think, what if you could actually broaden the age of that group? And what if you could also invite families to come together to something other than Christmas Carol? Because I think I saw Carol last night and I was like, there's a million families here. But it's actually saying like, no, when we premiered Emma at the Guthrie, it was like moms and their daughters. And it was awesome to like watch these women laugh together about the struggles of a woman that wasn't allowed to do anything because of the time she was in. And so I want to give space. We don't know anything about that. Yeah. But it was, and we premiered that show on the night Roe versus Wade got overturned. And when I tell you that like watching those moms and their daughters, you were like, yeah, you shouldn't just come to the theater with your teachers. Next up is Purpose by Brandon Jacob Jenkins. It won the Pulitzer last year. It's what I'm going to call a new classic. Great roles for resident company members. I would love to see Whitney White's version of it. So I just aspirationally was like, Whitney's going to come back and do that. I love Whitney's work. And she did whatever she wants. Then Carol. Could get Carol. Then we're going to have a resident. So now I'm moving into the second theater. Those three were in the upstairs theater. Then I'm going to say resident company drink slot. I don't know what this is. We're going to find a resident company drink slot. It's going to be somebody's passion project. Then we're going to move into an amazing role for a resident company member. Heidi strikes what the Constitution means to me. I just think it's a conversation we need to be having right now. And an amazing chance to also partner with like a deeper relationship with your local high schools and those debate clubs of like, as we're bringing in our young artists and giving them chances on stage. Then this is for me. I've been dying to direct Betrayal, Harold Pinter's Betrayal. Amazing roles for 3 actors. Also, again, it's like if you want to get to know me, it's like how I work with actors in intimate spaces in a way that is surprising and like deeply driven by the drama of that. So I'm super excited, and I also just think like such fun design opportunity for like what that means for that world. And then closing out with the musical Fly By Night. If you saw it in New York, pretend like you didn't. Yeah, sorry. Paul Vogel handed me this show when I was at TheaterWorks years ago. It's a bunch of students at Yale. Kim Rosenstock, Michael Mitnick, and Will Conley wrote this beautiful indie rock musical. It's like a magical musical. We did it at Dallas Theater Center, we did it at TheaterWorks, and then it went to New York and they replaced everybody and it lost its magic. But I'm like so deeply moved. It takes place the night and like in 1956 when the lights went out in New York, and this like magic of what happens to this group of 7 people. It is wildly theatrical and just like such a special moment that celebrates the best of musical theater and new musical theater at the same time. So I want to bring it here. I don't direct it. I was a creative producer of it. My best friend Bill Fenley does. And then keeping, of course, our relationship with the Latino arts for the summer. Second season. Yeah. Second season, building curiosity and enticing what's next. This season is intentionally about expecting the unexpected. So every show is wildly different than the one before it, because I want people to start thinking, I'm so curious about what they're doing next. So, oh no, don't go. Okay. So we're going to start with the commission that we would have been workshopping during this season. There's this group called Pigpen. Yes, I mean, the most delightful group of children. And they're now most famous for like Water for Elephants on Broadway, but they have a show called The Old Man and the Old Moon. It's a group of, again, like sort of indie musician actors that are now making work for other people. And I would love to see what they would do with a Little Prince. I think the story of a Little Prince is so beautiful. Again, a multi-generational opportunity. I would love to have Amanda Denner come back and direct it, because I'm like Amanda working with a bunch of musicians, helping resident company members in terms of like, where are you as musicians? So it is both a commission and a world premiere, and it is new and is multi-generational, has all the tags. Next up, I've been dying to do this for years. This is me. J.B. Priestley's An Inspector Calls. It is a play from the 40s that is the deep investigation of class in like a true mystery. And as like an inspector shows up at this family's house and sort of systematically figures out how they were all responsible for the death of their maid. And it really is looking at class inside of culture. There was a production I saw, it's like the early 2000s, that just like blew my mind, that I've been waiting to do it ever since. So it is like a classic with a major design opportunity with great roles for resident company members. Then resident company dream musical. What? Yeah. Yes, I wanted to make sure that we were not just representing plays, but also musicals. Yeah, like what are people excited about doing? And let's figure out how to do it. Carol, now moving into the second theater. This production, which I premiered at the Humana Festival, it's called Airness. It's about competitive air guitar. Thank you. And it is a play literally about competitive air guitar that is an air guitar competition. And when I tell you, it is like, again, just joy. And the most vulnerable you'll ever see people. It is how everyone dreams of seeing your resident companies being like, now you're air guitar stars. And believe it or not, you don't know this, but you have a huge air guitar community in Providence. Oh yeah, you do. I mean, it's an international art form, my friends, and when you learn about it, it is crazy. And it's a huge way to attract a younger audience because it is wildly popular in the world of like YouTube and what that is. It's by Chelsea Mercantile. It's great audience interaction. It gets everybody playing air guitar. So it's also like, I call it like a semi-musical because there's a ton of music in it. Just nobody singing or playing guitar. This just closed in New York, this production of Exodus. It's like Brian Quijada and Nigel Robinson. It's two guys. It's a looping hip hop musical about the Underground Railroad going south to Mexico. And it's really, the stage is like, it's cool lighting, some levels, but it is about watching people live loop in front of you and learning this entire story that I knew nothing about. And they are both dear friends of mine. And I was like, I would love, they were looking for like future homes. And I was like, I would love to bring that here to like bring in our audiences. There's like so many pick points of audiences to bring in for it. And a huge passion project for them. Next up is Amy Herzog's adaptation of A Doll's House. I fell in love. I did not love the Broadway production, but I fell in love with the adaptation. Fantastic roles. It's like a new classic, major resident company roles, like the intimacy of thinking about it in a smaller space where like you can feel like you're only 7 rows back from that. It's like super exciting, major design opportunities. And then with some playground injuries, which is one of my favorite plays, Rajiv Joseph. It's playing right now in New York, or wherever that is. But again, two great resident company roles, two-hander. They play the same people from age 6 to age 35. So you get to see, it's like play to see what this, and also just this moving story of these two people that have always loved each other and have come to support each other that you just want to watch the acting unfold in front of you. And that's summer. Great. Third season. Building ambition, where are we going? Growing, commissioning, shifting our space more, and the return of the New Play Festival. Okay. Now, open this season, my friend Sam Pinkleton, who you would know of Oh Mary fame. Sam did this production in Wizard of Oz at ACT 2 years ago. It's a cast of 9. There are no children in it. He reimagined a Wizard of Oz in a way that is like a celebration of queer joy. And when I talked to him, I said, what are your passion projects? Like, what are you really excited about doing? And he was like, I want to get back in there with Wizard of Oz. He was supposed to do Rocky Horror, which now he's going to do on Broadway, but like, he was supposed to do it and he had to pivot really fast. So he was like, I don't feel like we got the whole opportunity. David Zinn was a set designer for it. It's got puppetry. It's like the best of like what theater can be. And he makes it with, he's like, I'm interested in making it with the community I'm in. So like everyone was local Bay Area, everyone would be local here. And again, multi-generational. Great. Next up is Sarah Roll's adaptation of The Three Sisters. My mentor and friend Les Waters directed it originally. And when I called him and said, hey, what are your passion projects? What do you want to do? And he was like, okay, I want to get back in there with Three Sisters. He did it at Berkeley Rec, probably 10 years ago now. He's like, I want to get back in there with Three Sisters. And we started talking about Chekhov and why we love Sarah's adaptation of it and why we love Annie Baker's Uncle Vanya. And I just said, you know, if we're gonna be the theater that says, like, we are the theater that is saying, like, we put classics at the forefront, then we should be at the forefront of commissioning, like, new tellings of these stories. So that's where I would say with this is launching Chekhov commissions, to commission 3 writers to do major translations of Cherry Orchard and Vanya and Siegel for our company. So that we are keeping this canon alive as we are bringing in new writers to give their points of view on these stories. Here again, it's a new classic, Les would direct it, it launches a campaign, so it gives a clear launch. Next up for me to direct, Kate Hamill and I have been talking to the Agatha Christie estate about the Miss Marple stories. And we're gonna launch with a new Miss Marple. And the reason I say this is not because Agatha Christie has sold well at other places, it's because it centers an unlikely heroine where everybody underestimates her. And in fact, like, she is the one that figures everything out. So we would commission it, so we would have been working on it over those seasons. It is a comedy, and it is roles written again for our resident company. Carol, then our friends, your friends and mine, Fiasco, is bringing back Fiasco to do comedy dream slot. So it's an alumni dream slot to say to them, hey, my dog is currently staying with them. It's like, great, like, what do you guys want to do? Like, we love you, we love your hands-on, we want you to make work with company members. So it is a commission, it is a world premiere, it is multi-generational. Made with both the resident company and the training program, to be able to say that, like, right, we also want to include training artists here. Next up is a solo show, Every Brilliant Thing, which I did in Minneapolis. It was the first show back at the Jungle after COVID. It's a beautiful piece where audiences are handed slips when they walk in the door. Like, what is it? Like, you've done it.
I directed him.
Oh my gosh, well, you can't do it again with somebody else. No, it's such a beautiful, and how the audience gets to participate in this, like, beautiful reminder of every brilliant thing in your life. Then, here we go. I did this production of Cyrano. That is an adaptation by Jason O'Connell and Brenda Withers. We did it as a co-production with Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival in Two River. It's a 5-person Cyrano. They're doing it at the Old Globe this spring. And I would love to bring it here. It's a great resident company where it's like how you do that theatrically of, like, everybody shifting roles. And, like, ultimately the romance of the story, like, I think lifts to a totally different place because everybody's involved in it rather than it being, like, the central story. Huge imaginative design. And then here, I was like, this is our Dream World premiere slot, right? So our Dream World premiere slot is something that we've commissioned, specifically written for you guys and the training actors. And that this is gonna be the centerpiece of a relaunch of your New Works Festival. And so when I talk about a New Works Festival, for me, it is a culmination of open process that I talked about. So that for the people that are, like, the deep lovers that have been watching readings this whole time, great. For those who are like, I've never been to a reading in my life, you're like, great, well, now you're gonna see one in a theater. So that it would be about focusing on, like, 2 or 3 readings, a workshop production, and a centerpiece of a world premiere. So that you are giving audience access to every stage of what development is. And for me, it's like, that's where we start. I think there's tons of room for growth to see what that festival becomes, but you start in a way that says, we are here to, like, introduce you to what process is. And I also think we would also involve Brown MFA playwrights in that as well, so that they are getting the chance to see their work showcased next to professional writers. And those are all projects that we are thinking about for the future. Great. I want to celebrate the unique, eclectic nature of these shows. I believe in curating each show individually, from our first point of contact to how we tease it out to what the lobby displays are. It's all about enriching the experience of the audience engagement. The way we talk about Doll's House is not the way we should talk about Airness. And I think by celebrating the differences between those two things, you actually start to build individual audience for them. We used to have these loyal subscriber bases, and that across the country has eroded over time. But now I believe that if you can actually build unique interest around each show, so that what you're doing is building curiosity about what's next, and they know that this is a place that centers excellence, that we begin to build that loyalty anew by expecting the unexpected. That you just start to go like, I love that. What's the thing that's next? Like, I don't know what that is. And all I want is for people to be like leaning forward into the work that we do. So as we're talking about audience and new audience possibilities, transitioning to question 2, I think your current offerings in terms of in terms of your summer programming, in terms of all the opportunities you're giving people to actually make art is awesome. I'm deeply curious about how to go, okay, if you've come to a class, is there a way that we incentivize not only you to come and see a show, but your family to come and see a show? Is there a way that we can keep using the people that have said yes to Trinity to open more doors as we break down more barriers? I think there's room for growth similarly with Project Discovery, like looking at multi-generational to say, does this allow us to attract different age groups to that? And also saying to sit down with their faculty and say, like, what is inside the curriculum? Like, what are you reading? What are you studying? Is there any way that we're in conversation with that to be more incentivizing to bring more people in the doors? And then absolutely continuing the relationship with Rhode Island Latino Arts and being like, great, this is where we're going. How do we over time start to say, like, can we go to more places? Do we start to see what that reach is so that we are meeting people where they are to invite them here? A lot of times buildings are boundaries. So it's like, how do we meet people in the community to actually invite them into doors that are open? Riffing on that, I saw this play in New York recently called Last Call, a play with cocktails. It was, yeah, right. It's like 30 to 40 people. It takes place in someone's apartment. And it is made by Hansel Young, who wrote Wolf Play. And it is a rotating cast of actors. So it would be like resident company and training actors, a rotating cast of actors. It's like part ghost story, part house party, part seance with a bartender. And so you are literally having cocktails. And I was like, the audience we're not reaching is the audience who wants to participate. And when I was there, I was like, this is amazing. Because people that were like, I don't want audience interaction. It's not audience interaction. It's like you're at a house party and you chose to be there. And so I was thinking about like, oh, right, these partnerships and these community partners that we have, about being like, let's all host. And like you invite your communities to come and see this show that we're going to make for you in your spaces. That's meeting people to invite people. And I think our greatest educational initiative is the partnership with Brown, right? Trinity's commitment to a rigorous training of the next generation is a core value. So therefore, whether it is a return to a conservatory or whether it is a whole new model of apprenticeship, it feels like a commitment to that training of the next generation, both by alongside in the classroom and on stage with our artists, is a must. And Brown is also a partner in this New Works Festival by being able to say for your writers and for your actors, we're giving the opportunity to learn how to work on new work, which is a very different skill. And we're also giving those writers an opportunity to have professional actors help their work move forward. All of this, I think Brown helps us ensure a pipeline. It helps ensure a pipeline for new plays and for new artists as we move together to find new audiences. I believe so strongly in this idea of mentorship and training opportunities because I'm a product of them. I was an apprentice at Actors Theater of Louisville in the late 90s. I was there for Ruby Sunrise. I know, thank you all. I was like, that's why I recognize everybody. And then I came back for the next 2 years to run that apprentice program. So it was about, we still had a small resident company at the time, and it was about learning craft besides amazing craft makers. And then in graduate school, I chose to go to UCSD because of its professional attachment to La Jolla Playhouse. That is always about like learning and then doing, learning and then doing. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. I'm a theater lifer. I started out in musical theater as a kid when I was 16. I lost my voice and I couldn't speak for a year. So I spent the past like 30 plus years trying to figure out what that voice is in the theater because I always knew that theater was my home. So I have rediscovered it and changed it anew many times. That journey has taken me through stage management and summer stock and student theater. It has taken me through new play and new musical development, bringing together teams that have helped change the form. It has brought me to producing regionally, working with some of our country's best artists to work collaboratively to bring their vision to life. all while freelancing nationally, which I've been doing for the last 35 years, which is getting to experience firsthand what's happening in our field and where it is thriving and where it is really falling short. And I would say the last 6 years that I have been freelancing full time, I can really tell you where we're falling short, which is that it has become transactional. That I show up at the door of a theater and the first thing that they welcome me with is what the ticket goals for the show are, and to know that the staff is overworked and to know that the set won't be done by the time for tech. And then I say, I'm Meredith. And so I don't feel safe to do my best work. I feel like I'm self-producing inside of these theaters, which is what brings me here. Because I want to be your artistic director to create a home for artists to thrive. Period. With our resident company and our training company as our centerpiece, we get to throw open those brand new doors to local and national artists and welcome them with grace and joy. This is a space where they are safe to make their best work and where I will be here helping them along the way because we center excellence in all we do. I would love to open up the floor to your questions.
I moderate the questions. Any questions? Any questions online? Is there a question?
This is so great, Barry. You mentioned several times design opportunities for design, and I wanted to just take a moment and talk about your relationship with design, which of course for every play, it has different needs. I have a little subset question, like, have you ever just done a play with the table and chairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could just talk a little bit about design or maybe even designers or what, you know.
Totally. I love people that make me think, that make me see the world differently. Like I was saying earlier that like, sometimes when you get into shows and it's like, oh, it's about this and it takes place here and that's how we described it. And so it just like doubles down on itself. As opposed to like, oh no, it's about this, but the design is having like this idea. And like you're looking at things, it's like Joseph Cornell or like Robert Rauschenberg, that like your experience of watching something is like multifaceted, which makes you think about it and challenge yourself in different ways. So for me, like those designers I've worked with a tons, like Lex Leong and David Zinn and Dane Lackery, and they're just are people that I've worked with over years, but also like Paul Owen, who was our resident designer at Actors Theater for decades, who like knew that space like the back of his hands and learned so much about like thinking expansively and what that meant. So for me, that's a lot of it is like the things that I find. It was interesting talking to the search committee right before this meeting and asking like, you know, I just asked people like, what are some of your favorite plays? And listening to when people describe things, I was like, yeah, you're describing something that was like, whoa. And sometimes it is the absence of things is in fact the design, right? And when I say like, what an awesome design opportunity, I don't mean it's going to be like flash and trash and turntables and lots of stuff, projections. It's never that. Like it's really about the opportunity to go like, wow, what could that be? And some shows you go, no, please just do every brilliant thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, please walk into a room with maybe a nice rug or something and like do that beautiful play. But sometimes you're like, how is it in conversation visually?
Any questions online? From the virtual people?
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just wanna make sure we forget them and they feel welcome. Rachel.
Hey, thank you so much, Meredith. I have a question about how you envision starting this training apprenticeship program. And you know, we talked about earlier today how many of us ran,
Yes.
teach in that program that's over in June.
Yeah.
So we're talking about starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Really. So how do you think, what's the onboarding of that program? What are your thoughts about
Yeah, and I don't mean, I'm not ducking the question either by saying
Yeah.
like, I don't really know. Meaning, I've learned a lot about that relationship and how that relationship broke down. Because I could say from someone on the outside, what I saw was like one of the best programs in the country just did this. Like that's what it looked like to us. So then you're like, wait, what really happened? Like, what was really in there? Who are the controllers inside that? Like, if it is a priority for Brown to have a relationship, and it is a priority for us to train people, then I think you start to go like, great, where are these priorities gonna start to meet each other again? And is that saying like, we will take control of this and you can take control of this, or you have funding for this and we provide you with this? You know, I think it's like figuring out what the partnership really is. To really be able to like, from what I've heard, which again is 2 days worth, is that like some key factors of like fundamentally disagreeing what the thing was about seem to take place. So it's like, okay, great, then like, how do you begin the conversation? I think in a way, it's so sad, but in a way, it's great that the field is just clear. Like, it's just clear. You're no longer in the weeds trying to Band-Aid like a sinking ship. You are really getting back to the place of being like, let's start the conversation. Like on the most base level with like the most important people to be in the conversation. So I won't like tell you I have a whole safety plan because I don't know the history. But I do think spending a lot of time saying that this is like a core value of ours and therefore a priority, and therefore that partnership and also that funding becomes like a real part of the conversation of how we help each other. Yeah. I was like, I wish I had a whole plan.
I'm curious, like the season so fun. I'm curious when you think about the life of a piece beyond Trinity, does Broadway or the commercial world ever factor into the way you think or what you're thinking?
No. The question is like, does Broadway or commercial work ever factor into the way I'm thinking? It's tricky. I think if you put that at the foreground of your thinking, something dangerous happens. I think some of the most special work we end up making is the thing that then commercial people want to pick up. Whereas like when you're like, I'm setting out to do the commercial version of this, you frequently end up like chasing it in a way that like is not helpful. Do I think a lot of people will want to come and see? Like, do I think like, great, do I want like to get this country and big regional theaters excited about doing Chekhov again? And those were Chekhovs like made with and for this company? Yeah. Like, do I want like people to come and be like, oh my gosh, if we get to do Miss Marple, everyone, their mother's gonna do it. Do I want them to know that it came from the support that this place gave it? Yes. But like, if that becomes something more than that, awesome. And I'm glad that that kicks back. Like I would always, so when I was in Louisville, you would think like they did the Humana Festival for 38 years. We commissioned for 6 of those years. That's it. The last 6 years. And so we had to try to convince our GM constantly, where he was like, why would we pay them money? And I was like, well, we would pay them money to write it. And then we get to do it and we get to develop it. And then if it has a commercial success, we financially benefit from it. And then he could like begin to listen. Where I was like, right, like if it turns into Hamilton, we're gonna get a real kickback off of it. 99.9% of plays don't turn into Hamilton, but that doesn't mean that you're not here to like keep saying like we want to keep putting out in the world work of a quality that they relate to us.
Great. We have a question, Carolyn?
Hi, sorry I don't have my camera on, but I'm coming in remotely. I really appreciated what you mentioned about bringing in staff and sort of broader staff into artistic conversations. I just wanted to ask if you could talk a little bit more about how you approach difficult conversations, or coming into this institution as a fresh set of eyes, how you see yourself as somebody who could maybe reconsider things that we're very used to and look at things, is this form still working for us? Asking those kind of like tough questions.
Totally. I'm not gonna look at that screen. I'm gonna look at this owl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing for me is like coming in and listening. To just like sit down with literally everyone and be like, great, talk me through, like, what do you currently do? What are you interested in doing? Like, this isn't just for actors. It's like, what for board members? Like, what brought you here? What excites you about this? What keeps you coming back? So that like you begin by listening, like an actual getting to know people and an actual getting to know systems. So that then you can say, by talking to you, Katie's like, this is how we do this. And I'm like, great, talk me through, like, I'm just curious why, like, why and how. And you go, I don't know. You know, like, we've just done it like this. And you're like, great, do we want to do it like this? Like, that, oh God, Karen's not there. Then I think you start to ask those questions. But I think you have to really understand the system's intent and how it was made to function before you come in and say, I'd like to change something. When I was at Actors Theater with the Apprentice program, I was there, John Jory's last year, the transition year, and Mark Masterson's first year. And John, in the transition, had come up with these, they were like subcommittees. So it's like, you might be on the like finance subcommittee, or you might be on the marketing subcommittee, because he really wanted to make sure that this new artistic director, that the staff was really engaged. And there were board members on, there were some community members on. I was on the new, it was Artistic Risk was the name of our committee. And we produced a night of, it was 3 weekends. It was called Free Theater. And we did Pinter plays in the round, and they were free. And I, as a young person, I was in my mid-20s, and I could not have been prouder of that committee and like how we fought and how we worked together and how we tried to figure out what risk meant for so many different voices. And Mark came in, and the first thing he did was say, all the committees are disbanded. He never met with a single one of us. And I just remember, and that was the moment where I was like, I have to start looking about where to go next. Like, cause I was like, oh, I'm just gonna start looking into grad schools. Like, I was really like, nope, because it broke, like, it meant so much to me, and it meant so many things to people. And he just erased it, cause he was like, I don't need it. And I was like, great, but you didn't know what it meant to us. So for me, I'm always like, learn what the system is to be able to ask questions about it, because you don't know who's like actually finds like real purpose through the system.
Anyone else here? Live people?
Oh, you're fine.
Live people are so complicated.
Would you direct Christmas Carol, and what part, when would you direct Christmas Carol?
What about in summer? Like, no, I did not know that you guys do a different carol every year.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers and fantastic. Like, we would just spend like $2 million on doing the same thing every year. So yeah, in these first 3 seasons, she says, looking at this, probably not. Maybe, you know what? Maybe. Honestly, you're like, no, you're just a carol. Because, and now, like, I didn't know this until last night, that it was different every year. So I was really like, I don't need to get in there with Carol. And now I'm like, my God, if you could actually be like, reimagine what that is, I'd be like, yeah, that's like a glorious story. That's like the most front facing to your community. So yeah, for sure. We're not there. It's not the first year, that's too rough. First year, I was like, one thing I know, one thing that's new, but like, no, I feel like absolutely, yeah, because your voice should be seen. Like, why theaters think that, like, theaters that have like this, like, ugh, and then Carol, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, Carol pays for your season. Like, make Carol a passion project every year.
So, you talked a bit in the search committee meeting, and I'm wondering if you can elaborate in this larger group. We talked a bit about EDIA and how important that is as a cornerstone for Trinity. I'm wondering if you can talk about how that would manifest itself in your work making, your decision making, and if that also speaks to how to broaden the audience.
Sure. I was saying, for me as an artist, like, I just have my values are to say that like 50% of the people that I work with on projects, both on stage and behind the scenes, are people of color. 50% of those people are also on stage or can always control, are also women, certainly in teams. Because I want the groups of people that I work with to have the most diverse set of opinions as we like work together and challenge each other and talk through things. It is not colorblind casting, it is very much color conscious casting, to think about like, how do we want to tell stories in a way that says like, okay, so like, what does Three Sisters look like in that way? So that we're being very conscious about the way that we are opening up stories anew, so that I think you can say like, right, now I'm seeing a story on stage in a way that might feel quite different than Purpose, that is a story that centers the experience. But that the experience you have throughout allows you, because of our intentionality, to go like, oh wow, I am seeing myself on stage and feel participatory here. Because I think too much it becomes like, oh, it is like the one show or the, that like, rather than saying like, that is the center of a thing, but also like, what does it mean if what the Constitution means to me isn't a white lady? You know what I mean? Like that story now becomes, it just has a different richness and it's having a different conversation. And I think those are the choices as we look at these things that you're like, right, that's how these things begin to shift.
Yes.
Just wondering, as we're looking at these sort of, and I love that they're very flexible and you can move them easily here and there. When there's sort of, when we've got two theaters running and we're often running things very concurrently, how do you consider them in conversation with each other of like, you've come and seen this thing in the Shades, you might also enjoy this thing in the Dowling, like, or like really pushing that,
Yes.
how they talk to each other.
Yes, I say yes to that. And you're like, how do you? And I'm like, yes. Yeah, I don't entirely understand. Maybe we don't all understand exactly how the new thing's gonna go, but I do think either you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna say like, this is as different as can be. Or like, oh, I wanna make sure that like, if we're doing Emma and what the Constitution means to me, like, these are both female-centered stories that have deep resonance right now. So like, no matter what inside the season, you're gonna be saying, if you loved this, I want you to also think about this. While also saying, I can just celebrate this for people who like are here for some teen debaters. You know what I mean? But so that's where I said like, I don't know the order. I think these are decent kickoffs. But like, because everybody wants a kickoff, but like the order as it goes does sort of go like, how do those things work? And also, God, it's like somewhere in the middle of this, if you're like, now let's change the seating configuration. Then you're like, great, now what's a thing that might survive, so that we're not, I was saying today earlier, like, I wouldn't do it all at once. I would be like, first season, like, welcome back to the theater. And then here, I would be like, a whole new seating configuration. So that then you're like, whoa, what? It can also do that, you know what I mean? So that you keep surprising us without being like, here are all the tricks at once. But also it lets the staff go, like, we understand how to get this under our belts. Like, this new thing is golden. Or golden-esque. Aspirationally golden. And then now we're gonna start going like, what else can we do? And by the time we get here, we're like, what else can we do? Because now we actually know. And we can actually start to plan in a way that goes, how do we not kill people, but also how do we let our work be in conversation with itself? Yes.
I am really drawn to your conversation about showing classic stories in new ways. Can you talk about your idea or possibility of showing classic stories in multiple forms in the same season? I think this is done in sort of the opera world. It's been done in the dance world. An interpretation of a story, whether it's not even in the same season, but an interpretation of a story in two different ways in very close relation to each other.
Like, would that put itself in a way that says like, it's two plays written by the same person in the same season, or is it the same play twice in a season? Or we're not talking about a season. Get out of that.
Get out of the thought of a season.
Great
It's
news.
more
Okay.
about
Yeah, I love this. I've always been sort of obsessed with like the things that are in conversation with each other already, where you could go, what I'm interested in Hamlet and what you're interested in Hamlet are like two wildly different Hamlets. So therefore, like, what does that begin to look like? It's the way that I teach directing, is I give people the same scene so that everybody's doing the same scene and we've all done the same text analysis. So that like the first big aha moment is like the minute someone makes a choice that they didn't make. And then they're like, oh, and you're like, no, 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 do what you did. Like the point is for us to begin to understand what owning our own point of view is. And so for me, I'm infinitely fascinated by this, by being able to be like, what does it look like if you see three different versions, or if you see like three different adaptations? It's like, you know, if I'm doing Chekhov and I read 7 different translations of it, they're wildly different. But it's because of what the point of view of that writer is. So then for me, I'm like, who do I want to be in conversation with? And if I'm saying something I'm passionate about, I want to find another director that's like, I am too. And I'm like, let's do it. You know, you feel like the deep theater geeks that want to see them both together. But for me, it's like, how do we build? And then I want to see that because we had this awesome class in grad school. Les was my teacher, and we were studying Pinter. And it was like the moment in the homecoming, and it's just all he does is she's like at the door and he gives her the keys and she leaves. And we all just had to stage it. It was like that. It's like 3 stage directions, and I think they say 2 lines each. And so like everybody did like, I mean, we did like the most banal version, and Les was like, great. It was in a class on status. I'm thinking about status, and we thought about status on like a 1 to 10. And it was like, okay, now what if like he's a 1 and she's a 10, so she has all the status. Now how does she pick up the keys? And it was like, okay, now we're gonna do this and say like, now he has all the status. Now, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, he drops the keys and then just stares at her until she picks them up. And suddenly you're like, oh my God, there's a million choices. Like I just remember this moment, I get chills thinking about it. I remember this moment as a young artist of realizing that every moment we put on stage has a million choices. And like, when you really investigate that work, it's like, that's, we've been all day being like, what's excellence? What's excellence? I'm like, that's excellence. You know, when you really start to get into like deep investigation with some time. Yeah.
Speaking of choices, so I'm looking at you and I'm like, wow, she's done freelancing. She goes all over the country. She lives in the greatest city in the world, in my opinion. I just can't live there anymore.
Can all get there,
Yeah. So what, and I mean, I know you know Trinity, but so what's the choice about?
Yes. Yes. I made my life in regional theater intentionally. I live in New York because after 15 years of being away, I missed my friends. I miss seeing my friends on like I miss going to people's birthdays, you know. And so I moved back, but not because I yearned to live in New York City.
Okay.
For me, it was always about making work in communities. Like I never thought I would live 10 years of my life in Louisville, Kentucky, but like that became a second home for me, much more than Bedford Lakes, New Jersey is actually, in terms of being a part of that culture and like a part of like as an arts leader, moving that community forward. And so for me, it's like, I think resident companies are dying off in this country. And I've always wanted to be a part of one. And so it's like the opportunity to work like in a place that already says like, we are humans who have invested time to make art for this community is like, absolutely. And it's really, and it's not just because I'm getting older. It's also like, if freelancing felt awesome right now, I might be like, I'm just gonna keep riding this wave, but it doesn't. And that's not because of age, it's because like there's just a lack of generosity. And so when you see those gaps in the field and they're so consistent and you think, I think I might help change this gap. Like I might be able to like invite my friends to come meet these people and say like, this is a place that's gonna lift you up. And this is a place where like, we're gonna center that work. That to me feels awesome. And to be a part, and like, I was different this today, but like, I grew up on a lake. I've made every major life decision in my life based on water. And so I'm like, being able to be like, if you have a bad day, you can get to water in 5 minutes to like work it out is like crucial. Like I've not applied for a landlocked job. And so I do feel like for me, like that's a big part of
The blue mind.
yeah, just like I've loved your city from afar and on pass through trips for a long time.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah. Please take pictures of this. I feel like, I was like, don't forget. My thing was like, it's deeply analog, but sometimes then like down the road, you're like, what did she say about that thing? And I'm like, look, take pictures of the analog. Thank you.
There's wine and cheese next door. Wine and cheese.
You gotta find a freezing.
Well, that's-